You are now listening to two dudes in their 30s with Adam and Greg. They're gonna talk about stuff, and you're gonna listen. Okay, got it. Good. Let's start the show. Hell yeah!
Just having a insanely rough morning.
Pure insanity there. I like that mug.
Thank you. Little Avengers. I think Josh and Andrea, my brother and sister-in-law, gave it to us.
How's the dog?
Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Woke up at like 7 o'clock to the dog barking frantically. And by 7:30, there was 4 or 5 piles of vomit on our carpets. And about 5 minutes before we were going to hop on and do this recording, she just went on Vomit Fest 2018. There was like 6 more piles.
Volume 2.
Yeah. Oh.
What's wrong with the poor little thing?
I don't know, but she's on a bunch of medicine. Maybe she just didn't eat and ate all. Teresa's in the other room telling me, no, it's not it. But you want to get on the podcast?
She's on it right. She's on it right now. I can pretty much hear her. Tell her to.
Yeah.
We have the same, but a 5-month-old doing the same thing, basically. But
yeah,
it's typical for her. So. Gosh.
The joys of life.
Yes. But at the end of the day, it's all good.
Yep. Had a good night last night.
We did. Yeah, we both went to Cafe Lena in Saratoga for the first time, which was fun.
It's a nice little mandate, in all honesty. I think our wives were jealous.
Yes, they were actually. And we were kind of saying, kind of started this thing within the last couple of months, and all of a sudden we're able to like reach out to people, get a response, get a guest list spot, and be able to kind of check out a show and talk to somebody ahead of time, which is kind of strange. It kind of really is no excuse for anybody in today's world to not make something happen on their own. Something like this, if they want to. Like for us two guys, like at this point in our lives with full-time jobs and marriages, and you got the dog and I got the kids and we got everything else going on. This is a part of what we're doing, but probably a small part. I mean, we dedicate as much time as we need to this, but we're not out there every day grinding on this podcast. It's more of a fun outlet for us to be able to kind of just do this. But for people that really want to do something though, I mean, that have the time or really want to make this their thing. Like, I think we've probably shown in just a few months that like, it is possible.
There's no excuses.
There's literally no excuse. Like we've talked about numerous times. We never edited a piece of sound before this. We never recorded anything before this. We never really. It's not like we ever had any training in any kind of broadcasting. But we were able to make this work and get people listening each week and connect with interesting people. So
we put on a really good facade.
Yes, I guess. Is that my point? I'm not sure if it is or not, but I guess that's good.
Do we want to talk a little bit about technical difficulties last night?
I think the main thing we can say is that from a technical standpoint, we are continuing to try to figure things out, and you'll definitely hear last night one way or the other some like background noise from our conversation. We did talk to Sawyer Fredericks, so he's on the show with us this week. And it was just because basically we had an opportunity, which was awesome, to get there early while they were basically kind of setting up, getting ready at Cafe Lena. We were able to set up right in the main room there with him and kind of do our thing. But you'll hear people in the background just kind of getting ready for the show, which is totally fine. I mean, it didn't distract from our conversation at all, I don't think. But
no, it was great.
It's funny. So in terms of talking to Sawyer on the podcast, when we first started this thing out, and we were kind of was telling like my dad what we were going to do. He's like, you should try to interview Sawyer Fredericks, and he kind of like laughed about it because my parents are like huge Voice fans, and they obviously like connected to him a couple of years ago just because he's like a young kid from around here. I think he was 16 years old when he was on The Voice. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I'm like, you know what? Why not? So I just reached out, and kind of one thing led to another. We've been kind of trading emails back and forth for a while now, and knowing that these dates in Saratoga were coming up, it just kind of worked out that we were able to kind of make it happen. Today's Sunday, May 27th that we're talking, but you'll be listening to this on Monday, Memorial Day. So, but Sawyer has been at Cafe Lena he'll be here the last 3 nights. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend, 3 sold out nights. I think the show sold out like in an hour. It was funny last night when we were there, which was the second night of the 3-night show. He seemed to be thinking that it was pretty much the same crowd as Friday, and then it might be the same crowd as today. And he just has like a pretty rabid, loyal, tight knit following. It seems from the outside, from people like you and I who haven't dove in too much to him prior to recently.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit in the podcast about Cafe Lena too, and I've never been there. You've never been there. It was a really intimate setting. It was like kind of smaller, maybe 100 people.
Yeah,
were there last night. And it was really interesting to kind of be in an environment like that and hear a musician with such talent play really great set just right in front of us. It was really interesting. So it's a good time.
He's got. I mean, needless to say, he's got a lot of ability. And 19-year-old kid, it was crazy. Just where he's at and trying to have. You'll hear it in the conversation. Just we're at, you and I and him are at very different like life points. But just sort of talking. So it's hard to talk to him about career because you and I at 19, like what were we doing at 19? I wouldn't even want to like admit it. I don't think. But for where he's at, it's I don't know, it's pretty crazy, and like you said,
it's incredible.
And in that small setting, in that small room, it was really cool, like you said, because you could kind of, rather than it being a big place, like a big outdoor space, or even in somewhere indoors that was bigger, being able to be right up there, and we were kind of in the back corner, but it was like certainly we're far away, so be able to hear, just the ability, both from a playing perspective and a singing perspective was pretty cool to see. And he's got a really good band too. They were pretty tight. So yeah, it was fun. All right. So Sawyer Fredericks, Sawyer's new album came out on May 8th, called Hide Your Ghost. We talked a little bit about that during the podcast. We'll play a song at the end from him as well. And before we kick it over there, I wanted to just mention again, this is Memorial Day. And enjoy your day off if you have it, I would say. If you don't have it, thank you for working. But take a second, to remember why we have this day off. And
absolutely.
I don't think we really say Happy Memorial Day, but I think it does make sense if you have tomorrow off or today off, should I say, to just take a few seconds at least, and maybe it's just while you're listening to this to think about why we're able to do what we're able to do in this country. And despite what you think about the president now, the president before, what we have, what we don't have, I still think this is a pretty great place to be. And it allows you to do anything. So think about that. And don't be a fool. Okay. If you're gonna get after it with the alcoholic beverages, this weekend,
male adult beverages,
have somebody give you a ride. Okay. Let's all be safe out there.
Yeah. Thank you very much to all of our service members for the ultimate sacrifice. You guys do amazing things day in, day out for us, and we just we're honored by what you guys do for us. So, yeah, we'll turn it over here to our interview with Sawyer Fredericks now.
Malton Spa right up the road, and so like Saratoga's been pretty big part of our lives. And I was interested just about Cafe Lena. Obviously, we're in the middle of your like 3-night kind of residency, I guess. Very quick sold out shows. So what does this place mean to you? I mean, as like kind of the mecca of, I don't know, folk music, very generally? I don't know.
What Cafe Lena means to me is a lot of, like, I grew up playing here. I was doing open mics when I first started out, and I would come here and slowly, built up my confidence to keep performing. And this was actually the place that I had my first, like, actual show. I opened up for the Kennedys. And Yeah, so what this place means to me, it's mostly just, it's kind of like where my music was growing.
Okay. It's funny because this is actually the first time that Adam and I have ever been in here. It's been like right down the road.
It's a lot different
right?
now. Yeah. It used to, like, that door used to be the door you entered. They didn't have those stairs over there. It was all through there.
Looks great.
Yeah, it looks great now.
And how did last night go?
It went very well.
Yeah.
Very good show.
I watched the YouTube video. Actually, somebody posted last night online, and I wanted to ask you, do you know karate?
It's not.
Then how do you keep all these women like away from you?
Yeah.
There were some howls. I don't know. It's like I don't know if there's that kind of world in your music, but it seems like you got a good following at least.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let you scoot past that one very graciously. I don't know. We were going to talk a little bit about kind of growing up, right, and starting out, and we don't have a lot of time, so we don't need to necessarily rip through the whole story. But one thing that Adam and I were definitely interested in was just general upbringing and the fact that you were, not in a traditional like school, and sort of what kind of what that was like for you as a kid. Like, and why do you think your folks decided to go that route?
Yeah, I've been homeschooled. I had 2 weeks of kindergarten.
Okay.
And the type of homeschooling we do is unschooling, which is self-directed learning and learning through life. So one of the things I feel that is like the unschooling, the way how you do that, which is just anything you're doing is part of learning. And I feel that has really allowed me to follow my passions, and like I've been singing my entire life, and I actually got guitar lessons when I was 8 years old, hated it. Then my uncle taught me a couple chords when I was 11 years old, and I was just, instead of a lot of people do when they learn chords, they're like, I need to learn a song, or I need to do all this other just stuff. I was just thinking that, now I can write songs. So that was, and I was able to do that without, like, I feel like if I went to school and did all this other stuff, I would have been kind of like made to do certain type of things, and that I wouldn't have really enjoyed.
Yeah. So by doing the unschooling, you kind of were able to follow the things that you were interested in, the things you were passionate about. At one point or some point in your life, you must have had a time where people didn't like take your music seriously, or weren't really thinking that you were going to become a musician.
You're
like
a kid. I mean, right?
Yeah,
You're still
yeah,
19,
yeah.
right?
Like,
Yeah, I'm 19.
like what advice or like what have you learned through like your experience that you would give to somebody that's struggling after like their passion?
Yeah, I mean, the way as I was growing up, I mean, my mom was always very supportive of my music, and then I started posting videos online, like YouTube videos, and started getting, like nice responses to that. So that was kind of, like rewarding, and I didn't know if I had like a nice voice or anything, or if I was even writing well. But I started building up a little bit of a following online that was like, tearing me up. But mostly I would say to enjoy the music for yourself, and that was the main thing I was doing. I never thought of it as a career or like, oh, I want to do this as my profession. It was always just, I enjoy this. I'm not going to not do this because I enjoy it. So that, I think, is the main thing to do, like when you're performing and writing. It's all just a matter of whether you are enjoying it and you're doing it for yourself.
In terms of starting out and influence, what got you into music in the first place, and who have been your influences as you've been kind of?
I listened to a very wide range of music when I was growing up, from my mom's side and my dad's side. I would say my biggest inspiration, which I discovered, Ray LaMontagne's music when I was, I think, 8 or 9 years old, and I think he's had the biggest impact on my songwriting and just my entire style.
What kind of bands and musicians are you listening to like these days?
A very, very wide range. I listen to music, from from like Bob Marley to Tool. That's kind of.
I would not have pegged you with Tool.
No,
I'm a big Tool fan. I love that kind of music.
All right. Cool. The off timing and everything.
Oh yeah.
We talked. You mentioned like career a little bit. Like this wasn't going to be, or this was never sort of what you maybe envisioned. Maybe it was a dream, but it wasn't ever going to be something you thought was going to be a career. How is that sort of transition to now? This is what you're doing.
Yeah, I can't see myself not playing music, so
One way or the other.
Yeah, one way or the other. So the fact that I'm able to do it as a career is just a bonus.
Yeah. And we don't need to do a ton of voice stuff because I know I'm sure you get asked that question like constantly. But as a 16-year-old, you know, doing that thing, you know, that's a whole thing. It's a whole TV thing. It's different than playing a Cafe Lena for however many people fit in here. I'm not sure. 100? I don't even know. Just very generally speaking, what was that going from whatever you were doing, YouTube videos and other things, to like hitting that stage for the first time and, you know, that experience?
Yeah, I mean, they actually scouted me when I
saw that. Yeah, like YouTube videos or
YouTube videos. They found performances of me playing at farmers markets.
Okay.
And so what I did was like the executive like audition thing that's like after the open call, which they have like tons and tons of people going through that. But I actually said no to it.
Interesting.
After I read the legal agreements to it, and then basically one of the executive producers like called us up and like explained a lot of it. But so basically I went into it thinking of it as a learning experience, and it was my first time being around other musicians. And, you know, like I've spent most of my time going to like open mics when I was growing up. So like,
where were you going to them?
I was here, and I was also going to the Coffee Beanery, and I think that's in Gloversville, which that was the two main places I was going to. There's another place I went to, I forget the name of, but it closed down actually.
From Fulton County?
Yeah, Fulton County. I technically live in the town of Glen, and I've been living there for 11 years now.
You guys moved there when you were like?
Yeah, I was like 8 years old when I moved there.
And is that like, it's a farm, right?
Yeah, 88-acre
farm.
Yep.
Like, is that what your folks did for business or?
My dad does construction, and the farm is kind of just like, it's more for us than, I mean, we have lots of cows and like beef. It's a functioning beef farm.
Sure.
But
so it's more than a hobby, but it's.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it's very like lucrative right now. So that's why my dad has to do like construction.
Sure. Yeah. And what are those values, like farm values growing up? What, like as a kid growing up and doing that, what does that mean? And obviously you were home, you know, you weren't you weren't necessarily you weren't going to school every day. You were doing school, but what does that mean?
It reminds me of, there's this thing that I like was talking to like my friends about, and it's like finding a passion of like finding something that you're going to be able to do for work in life. And there's like, I never had that worry of that because I always was able to work either with my dad doing construction, and I love doing that, or I could work on the farm, and that I also love doing that. So I never was like worried about a job at all. But growing up on the farm, I think, has just kept me grounded and allowed me to really understand of like basically just to create things. And that's like, if I was, no matter what I was doing, whether it wasn't music, I would always be creating something.
What do you think is like the biggest skill or maybe like personal attribute that you have that has helped you in your music career?
I don't know. I guess the kind of ability I have to put myself into a scenario and try to feel the emotions that this person that I've made up would be feeling, and put it into music.
Like Greg and I were talking about that.
We were talking. Yeah, I was kind of most interested in like songwriting in general, and the fact that you're 19, and there's no offense in that. I mean, we were all 19, right? Before, well, we were. We're old, but I'm listening to. I read a couple articles ahead of time and listened. I heard you on another podcast. I can't remember the name of it now. It was folk based. It was at a festival or a conference.
It might have been a either Folk Alliance.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
There was two guys you were speaking with. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you talked about influence there. And then I read a couple articles from like the Times Union, specific to songwriting, and I'm listening to the new album, I listened it through, trying to just kind of get a feel for you, and not that I didn't know a little bit about you before, but I wanted to hear it through and be like, okay, where are you at now? And I'm listening to some of these songs and I'm like, whew, and I'm listening to the song "The Broken Home." Is that
Broken Home?
So
yeah.
I'm listening through to that, right? And then I had to Google afterwards, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound, that maybe that's not true. Maybe that's not true. It's not. That's not how you grew up. And you know, fortunately, that's not how we grew up. But you know, I have a kid now. I have a son and a daughter, and so I put it on the first time, and I'm like, all right, what's this all about? And by the end, I'm like, just about crying. Not quite. I kept it together.
I strive
you know,
to be able to do something.
And then
like
you get into the next song, which is about like a breakup and
Yeah.
you know, like,
half of mine is
you know,
like an anger
an
and
song
love.
about
And,
all that kind of stuff. And it's like, all right, I can get with that too, you know. But I got some years on you here, you know. So we've been through some of that kind of stuff. So I'm like, kind of, I guess first and foremost, where did that kind of come from? Is that
I don't really know. Like after I like write these songs and I like listen back to them, like when I'm performing them now, I forget that I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't experienced any of these, and all these lyrics are very, very deep, and I haven't been like writing that much lately, but I think like I said, it's like the ability to like kind of make up this scenario and put myself into it. And that's kind of my writing process is like, well, first, you know, the normal things, I start off playing guitar and then I find a melody. But for writing, it's more of I think of a scenario and then I try to put myself into it. And then it's more of just how I want to tell the story.
In terms, I mean, you know, all writers, not most writers that write stories, you know, fictional stories, you know, haven't necessarily experienced those things. So I think
I have not experienced
but they're also not up on a stage acting it out necessarily either. So we were talking a little bit about, you know, watching you perform, and you seem very much into it from an emotional perspective. So having not necessarily gone through a lot of the stuff, although I think some of the things that you wrote have been
a lot of it, the things I write are basically a feeling that I've gotten and that I exaggerate.
And then when you get up there and do it, though, some nights like tonight, you know, in an hour or whatever, how do you sort of put yourself into that place to deliver? Or is there more connection with the audience, or what is it like? What do you kind of find to get you to that place?
Yeah.
As you do this over and over again. Most
of the time, I mean, it doesn't always happen when I really feel into the music, and it's super. Like I love when I get that like emotional release, and that's the way my music has always been for me. It's just I'm normally a pretty happy guy, but my music allows me to basically just release a lot of this built up stress or something. And when I'm performing, it's like a whole new thing that I get to like share this music with, and it's like the first time people are hearing this, which is very empowering to me. But I mean, also sometimes I'm not feeling it, and you know, I've also gotten pretty good at faking it.
I mean, you're a professional, right? At this point, you know, even though you're a young guy, you've been doing this for a while now. I mean, you stood up in front of like national television for a long time. That obviously was something natural, because what was the training involved in that besides just playing coffee houses and open mics? Not anything. I mean,
like when I was on the show, the hardest part for me was the interviews. The performing, I was completely calm for. I was just like, oh, this is what I do.
Right. Which is great.
Yeah.
What about the interviews? Was kind of like.
Oh, I was really bad at interviews, and I considered myself like an introvert when I was growing up, and you know, going to LA, and they put you on this like pedestal, like shining on your camera, and then they ask you questions that, you know, a 15-year-old and also someone that doesn't go to school doesn't answer. Like questions of like, tell me about yourself, and I'm like, what do you want to know? But they also like ask questions and want you to form them into a statement.
Okay. So to have some sort of a profound.
Yeah. So they'll like ask you, so like, what's your favorite color? And you're like, my favorite color is blue.
And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
What is your take on? Because this album you just put out recently, you're on an independent record label now. So like, what's your take on the pros and cons of being on like a major record label compared to being on an independent?
Yeah. I would say, because I was signed with Republic Records after the show, and I felt that I did not have as much freedom as I wanted to have, and I think also after the show they didn't realize that I could write my own music, so they had me doing a whole bunch of co-writing with other people that had, a lot of sales under their name basically. But so I was working with a lot of artists, and it's co-writing is really good, but unless you don't find the right people, and then it can be a struggle, and you might not get the song that you want out of it. But I would say being independent is really allowed me to follow the way I want to write songs, and this album I've written and produced the whole thing, so I was able really to show people what my music is and who I am as an artist.
How do you feel it differs from the one you put out previously?
Oh, it's a big difference. I feel the last album I put out didn't really convey my artistry, as I feel like it was just like samples of things I could do.
Like a little piece of this, a little piece of
Yeah.
that. Come up with the best thing of
I feel
this.
that this new album is very coherent as an album, and the way I wanted it to sound is that if you liked one song, you'll like all of them.
Yeah, no, it's really good, and I think you can lock in from like the first one and just like rip your way right through it,
Yeah.
and it makes sense. It kind of like it flows together.
I was gonna follow up with how is it like having the family kind of business dynamic? Also, like I think your mother is your manager as
my
well,
mom's been
right?
managing me, and it's cool, and it's also like when we recently actually started having, because I spent like a ton of time with her when I was on the show because I was a minor, so I also just had to have a parent with me through that. But it's really cool. I mean, she knows me best, so she is able to speak for me in a lot of ways, which is really good for a manager to be able to do that. But I mean, it's not like it's spending so much time together and we start to drive each other crazy a little bit.
But mother and son.
But that's usual, and we get over that. And recently, I've actually, for touring, I have a tour manager now, which is my cousin Bill. So
okay, you're keeping it in the family.
Keeping it in the family still.
What is the tour like? What does on the road look like for you? Like, what kind of crew do you travel with, and what is it like? Are you guys kind of low key, just van in and out, like driving around?
Basically, we drive a Sprinter van, and it's not like a touring bus or anything like that. It's pretty minimal to be able to fit all our gear and us in it.
Yeah.
But it's long drives, and there's one thing that I don't care for is that we don't get to see a lot of the places we go because it's just to the hotel, to the venue, and then next place.
Yeah.
Just in and out pretty quick.
Yeah.
What are some of your other passions in life besides music?
I mean, I would say passions, but something that I really enjoy doing is I'm a big gamer. I mean, I love the farm, and I love basically any kind of physical activity. But
what any certain games you're on right now?
Video games. I've been playing Battlefield 1 quite a bit right now.
I just thought it was gonna be Fortnite.
Everybody loves Fortnite.
I know. I don't play video games at all, so I just expected that to be the answer.
Everybody loves Fortnite, and I'm making it. I played it when it first came out, but I only played the beta, and I made it very, very sure that I did not spend any money on it.
All right. Well, we're almost at 7, so I want to make sure that I'm being careful with your time. Yeah. But I do want to go back to the just kind of the growing up, the homeschool kind of thing, just for 1 second, because we didn't experience that. We actually had another musician on in a previous episode who was homeschooled as well, but totally different genre, rapper, hip hop artist, right? And I'm just interested from your perspective. Do you think you didn't experience, going to school with other kids? But I mean, was there? And I'm naive when it comes to what homeschooling is, and friends and all that other stuff. Plus, you were on a farm, so like you're in like a suburban neighborhood, right? So. Was there an isolating factor that you think made you turn to potentially like music and playing and picking that up, or is that not a factor at
all? I would say, like my mom hates the stereotype of like saying that like unschooling and all of that stuff like separates you from people and makes you more of an introvert, which I partly agree with that's a rough stereotype, and most of the time people have their own community and are able to practice people skills.
Right.
But
there's a whole homeschool community.
That's
why I cut you off.
But I would still say that, I wasn't used to, like, I do feel that I lost a lot of, like, not that I lost friendships, but I didn't create a lot of friendships. And most of the people I was friends with lived very far away. So I didn't have this big, like, social life. And so, I mean, the only type thing that, like, when I moved up to New York, I started playing soccer, and that was like the big
rec league.
Yeah, the little league, and I actually wasn't allowed to play on the school team because I wasn't going to school.
Okay.
So that was
what
sad,
district were you in?
What district?
Gloversville, like school district? Was it like Gloversville school district or like?
I believe it's Fonda.
Fonda. Okay,
Fonda,
gotcha. Okay. And now that you're 19, you're traveling. You're not doing college. You're not doing anything like that. So are you being shaped kind of on the road, or are you being shaped just through connections in music, or what do you think? It's kind of a weird question, but
I think all of, like, the touring and all of this stuff is kind of like the best, like, music school I could ever have. So
yeah, you don't need to go to, like, any top school to get what you're getting out here, which is get in front of people every night and kind of getting that repetition over and over and over again.
Do you think that your, like, unschooling or whatever has helped you maybe in your career path as, like, not wanting to get into, like, major record deals and, like,
I think it's allowed me to want to be more independent and really follow my interests in music, because that has always been what's most important to me.
It's shaped you to allow you to be yourself, as opposed to maybe going to traditional school where it's like you got to go to college, you got to do this. This is what you do. You take this class, and then this is what you're going to be.
Exactly. Like, the first time I ever took a test was actually for The Voice.
Wow.
And and it's funny because those things are so, like, trick questions, and, like, so I was like, why aren't you just telling me the information I need to know so I can know it? But anyway.
You didn't have any of that experience then, having to kind of go through that kind of a scenario. We took, did you take a road test?
I recently actually got my driver's license.
So you took another test, so you're good.
How about any future goals, like, for your career or otherwise?
Future goals, I always want to keep performing, and I want to keep releasing more music, and basically just, supporting, like, local businesses where I live, and, like, when I got that show coming up at the Glove, and that's going to be a big thing. And
it's cool. That theater is old, right? They're revamping it, or have tried to refurbish it, or what's the status of that?
They're trying to refurbish it and try to get it, like, back into, like, the music thing, so they can actually have more people performing at it.
Sure.
And also I am a Gasoline music video there, so that came out very nice.
Yeah. Let's let you go in just a second, because we're at 7:00. We want to let you talk about the new album though for just a quick second. I know we kind of hit on it a little bit. So for people that we just talked to a guy from a hardcore band last week, so we have a wide range of people that we talk to here. So for people that maybe haven't listened, or even for your fans that are going to listen to this, like, just talking a little bit about the album and what kind of inspired you for it, and how it's doing now.
I would say my new album, it's called Hide Your Ghost. And this album, I feel, is the first album that I released that is truly me. And it's showing who I am as an artist, and the music, because I've written and produced the whole thing. If you don't like it, it's my fault. But I feel this is really showing, like, who I am as an artist, and just, like, the style that I've put into it. And, people that have, like, heard my music from on The Voice, I'm singing covers, and even after The Voice, when I released the Good Storm album, it's all, well, not all co-written, but a lot of it is not produced by me. So there's different touches into the music, which changes a lot of it. And I feel this is the first album that is really, truly me and planting my roots.
That's awesome. Would you mind if you played a song at the end of this podcast? It's up to you.
Let's do Gasoline.
They're your songs. We'll do Gasoline. All right. Well, we really appreciate your time, man.
Thank you very much.
We're after 7. We're looking forward to sticking around and checking you out tonight.
Yeah, I hope you enjoy the show.
Thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate
it.
So that was our conversation with Sawyer Fredericks, the 19-year-old musical sensation.
Great and powerful.
His finger picking last night was
He's
just
awesome.
like mind-boggling.
Really good. His guitar player is really good too.
Yeah, they just put down some really good sounds.
They really did.
And from our conversation, it was interesting that he has such like a broad background in like what he enjoys listening to.
Yeah.
I found that super interesting. From Bob Marley, he said to Tool. So
Yeah.
I was hoping he'd play a little 46 and 2 from Tool last night, but
Right.
that didn't happen.
So we had a tight window. We had like a tight half hour, but I think we got through a lot. We just kept kind of rapid firing it, kind of ripping through them as quickly as we could. And we just appreciated the opportunity to be able to chat with him for a little while. It was fun. So anything else to say? Sawyer's new album, again, Hydra Ghost, came out on May 8th. You can get that kind of anywhere you get music, at least digitally, on iTunes. And we're gonna play a song by him too. But again, thanks everybody for checking us out. If you're new to the show, if you came in through Sawyer or somebody else, we got some other episodes. So if you want to check those out, please do so. Subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode going forward. And check us out on all social media at 2dudes30. And obviously, if you're a Sawyer fan, you already know where to find him. But it's Sawyer Fredericks pretty much everywhere on all the social media sites, as well as SawyerFredericks.com. He's got a ton of dates throughout the summer, so check those out if he's coming to town near you as well. Anything else, Adam?
No, man, it was just this is a good week. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Got some good food and good beers up in Saratoga this week. If you're not familiar with Saratoga, New York, go up there, check it out. It's a great town, and yeah. Other than that, I'm looking forward to next week, man.
Cool. So we're gonna end it here with the Sawyer Fredericks song. This one is called Gasoline. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Peace.
And your shadow dances on the wall, and I finally got you where I want you. No, I really thought you were the one, but it seems you always loved another. But I will not stand by as you leave me. No, I could not allow this to be. Don't scream, my body's gasoline. Won't find no fools who use me. I consume all that love. No, I ain't no toy. You cannot let them be. You stole the flames, but could not see what I truly was. And I ain't no toy. And your shadow dances on the wall as my ruby claws kiss your knees. I really thought you were the one, but you gave me what I need. Don't scream, my body's gasoline. Won't find no fools who use me. I consume all I love. No, I ain't no toy. Dreams, you cannot let them be. You stole flames, but could not see what I truly was. And I ain't no toy. No, I ain't no toy.
I like this.
That's a microphone. Want to sing a song?
Uh-huh.
Hurry up. Go ahead.
I will nobody go round and round and down. People want to go up and down, over the town.
You say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.